Hi, Mara. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Hey,
Hey, on.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just crazy Monday.
Yeah, seriously. It has been crazy.
All right. Anything I need to know? I haven't actually done a whole lot of Zooms.
I don't think so. I'm gonna let people in for you and take attendance, and then I'll introduce you and do their accountability. And then I will also label them like what market center they're from. So you have some, if it becomes relevant, you'll know what part of Oregon they're from.
Okay.
And then I will turn on like your doorbell sound. So if people need to like come in after I leave, you'll be able to hear that sound and let them in.
Okay.
But other than that, you should be all good to go.
And then I have not done screen sharing before. I'm assuming I need to do that. God, the lighting in here is terrible. That's okay. I just hit share screen and it'll pop up, right?
Yep.
And it's okay if I get done early.
Yes.
I haven't taught one of these for probably 2 or 3 years.
Fun refresher.
My least favorite topic too. Oh, well,
Well, I appreciate you jumping in
no worries.
for the vacancy.
All right, what button do I click on the PowerPoint to make it go full screen? What is it?
There's like a presentation, and then it should say present now.
I'm on a Mac. Does that change things?
Oh, it might.
Come on, where are you? I tried double clicking, that didn't do it. View, normal. Come on. Shoot, I probably should have figured that out ahead of time. Maybe someone on the call can.
I'm sure they will if they have lots of people have Macs. I'm just a weirdo.
Are you trying to see it full screen?
Yeah.
I am, yeah.
Over to the right, it should say view. To the right, if you like scroll over. Well, at least mine does. Mine's a Mac, so I don't know.
Like view along the top or view along the side?
On the side, like even if you're just looking at it right now, like I can see it says view. There's a little tiny square to the right.
Hold on.
There's
so
nothing there, then
wait, if I hit share screen now, can you see it?
No.
Not yet. So once you hit share screen, then you select the screen that you want it to share,
Got it.
then hit share. So there
Okay,
we go.
Did that do it?
I see
Yep.
it.
And then you'll go to slideshow at the top.
So, come back. Okay, now I'm stuck. I can't get back. There we go. Slideshow.
And then play from start.
Ah, perfect. Okay.
And then when you want out of that, you'll just hit escape.
Got it. Okay. And then how do I get, so if I do stop share, then I get back to you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey,
See?
girl.
Now you're a pro.
Awesome.
All right, we'll give people 1 more minute to get in, and then I'll start doing the accountability.
Are you doing this in addition to full-time working real estate?
Yep.
Dang.
It is fun.
I had an offer deadline of 10 o'clock for my listing today, and then buyer trying to get offer in by Dell F3. I'm like, I need everything done by 1 o'clock.
Get it all here now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start our accountability real quick. So I'm gonna go through and call each one of you out, and you'll tell me how many contacts you've made and if you've got any appointments or any contracts accepted. And Mondays are always fun because you get to reflect on what you did for the weekend. So Julie, you want to get us started?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi there. So over the weekend, I did host an open house and got a buyer lead. One of my listings had an offer, and I wrote a counter offer, and I have 5 contacts.
Excellent, great job. Miriam?
Hi, so this is my second meeting with you guys. Over the weekend on Friday, I was finally able to get access to like all the KW apps and everything. I spent my weekend signing up for the RMLS, the Sentry Lock, and all the apps I had to do, and I added about 10 contacts into my Connect.
Excellent, great job. Making quick success out of that. Trevor?
Hi, so I actually hosted my first open house this weekend by myself. It went well. There wasn't too many guests to stop by. We only had like 4 in total over both days, but it was still a good experience, good learning experience for sure. I added about 8 contacts since last week, so I'm still working on trying to get more.
Great. Lauren?
Yeah, I met with a lender via a friend of mine who's getting me all these wonderful connections. It's so nice. And that was on Friday. And then on Saturday, I hosted an open. I only had 2 visitors, but I got 1 buyer lead out of that. So that was better than the last time I did an open, which I didn't get any. So
Yeah.
then I haven't had any appointments. I added only 2 contacts this morning. I'm working on my business plan via last week's MREA, which I found really inspiring and helpful. So, so I'm just kind of I don't know, doing overview,
Great.
what I'm doing, which I thought it was interesting over and over in the MREA itself and in classes is if you set it up right from the beginning, there's a big advantage. So I'm encouraged.
Good. Irina?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hi. So I had a little bit of a slower weekend. I did manage to add 5 contacts, and I worked a little bit on my buyers and listing presentation, like the paperwork I could give potential buyers and sellers. But that's about it for this weekend.
Good. Good to check that off the to-do list. Deanna?
I had 15, I added 15 contacts over the weekend. I did do an open house on Saturday. It was really rainy, so it was really slow, but the 2 people that did come were definitely interested in the house and they already had realtors. I did get a contract accepted though on Friday. So we are working on all of that paperwork. And that's all new. So that's crazy. It was for my buyers. So
Yay, great
Yeah.
job.
thank you.
Perfect. Stella?
Hello, everybody. So I set up an appointment with the title company for this Wednesday. I'm meeting with them at 10 a.m. I met with the neighbor and we had discussion about her future needs to buy or sell. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but she knows a lot of neighbors in the neighborhood. And I was really studying the scripts from this book. And I've been writing notes to my neighbors just to remind them that I'm in real estate. And if they know anybody, they can refer to me because my goal is to help 5 people in the next 90 days to sell or buy the property. So yes, I did that, and I'm hoping to host an open house this weekend.
Good job. Awesome. Carly?
I over the last week added about 140 contacts to my database, and then I actually contacted about like 15 of them, I think, and got further information like their addresses and stuff, so I can send them little cards. And we had little conversations about, we just caught up, and then I told them about my licensing, and yeah.
Great. All right, and I'm not gonna ask Lori about any of contacts she's made because she's actually our newest Keller Williams family member and just joined us on Friday. So welcome her to the family, and
Thank you.
You'll be seeing lots of her going forward. And then Lori, when you do get a chance, come by the office and get your Ignite binder that will have the materials. I'm going to email it over to you real quick so you have it in front of you today, but moving forward, you can grab that anytime. And then Amy.
Hello, I entered 10 contacts into my database this weekend, and I just got back from previewing home.
Excellent. Danielle. Is she still on? I saw someone come on and come off. Maybe that was her. All right, Cal.
Hey, pretty good weekend. I toured with some clients 4 homes over the weekend, and then we have a meeting with a lender with the clients that I'm gonna go to later tonight, and then I have about 15 notes that I'm gonna send out here later this afternoon.
Awesome. Kayla.
Hey there. So I had a pretty good weekend. I went and knocked some doors and passed out some business cards. And then I toured about 5 open houses. With one, I got a potential client that I was working with. She asked me to send some listings over to her. So I put together a few listings for her, sent them over, but I haven't heard back. So I've been waiting on that. And then there was a secondary person that asked me to send over some listings as well, which I did. And I'm going to follow up with them in a couple of days. I added about 10 contacts into my command, and I'm just trying to get some open houses.
We're working on it.
Yeah. Yesterday I met with a lender. I work as an esthetician. So each client that I see, I kind of pass out my business cards and let them know who I am. But I met your friend, Heather, who was my client, and she's going to meet up with me. Hopefully I'm going to message her today to follow up and give me some tips and tricks.
Heather Decker.
Yeah. I want to market myself. So hopefully I'm going to follow up with her and see if we can meet up. But I'm definitely having a hard time getting clients to stick. So it's like they're interested, I'll send them listings, and then I'll follow up with them and I don't hear back. So I don't know if that's common or if there's something that I'm doing wrong. So hopefully I can work with you guys to step up my game.
For sure. Yeah. And Heather is who I bring in to teach Lending 101. So you guys will get to see a lot of her too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Perfect. Nicole.
I got to unmute myself. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties getting online. I guess my internet is out at my house. So over the weekend, I actually went to a couple of open houses with a person who I'm going to be helping to buy a house in January or February. It's someone on the autism spectrum, and they need a little extra getting used to stuff before they're ready to purchase. So we went and saw a couple places, and I got a really good idea of basically the work that I'm going to need to do for them, like what it's going to look like, supporting them around looking for places. I think the open house is a little too busy. We probably need to do like just us going to see stuff. And then I did some RMS searches just for practice and to help out my sister, who's got some clients that were coming in. And like I was saying, she has carpal tunnel, and so she's like really not able to get online. So I was able to do a little bit of that for her and she gave me like I got paid like $20 for helping her, which is always fun, you know, like I love it when my sister gives me money. And then I passed out some business cards like I usually do when I'm driving Lyft on the weekend. And this weekend, actually, my husband passed out some cards for me also at a client that he was working on who lives here in Veneta. And then I finished making a flyer, postcard that I'm sending to my neighbors, to the post office boxes here. And my title company, the title company that I work with, got me address labels of everybody that have PO boxes here, and they shipped them over to KW for me. So I've got that going on, and just taking care of a sick kid who does not have COVID but is sick. So nonetheless, so
poor
that's
thing.
what I've been doing. Yep.
Good. Okay. Well, excellent job, everyone. I'm going to introduce Kristen, and really quickly, just so no one panics during this, Kristen's going to be working primarily out of the RMLS system. Tomorrow for the CMA class for the productivity coaching program, you will get a look into the WVMLS system, as Dana from KW Capital City will be leading that one for the first hour. So don't worry if you are not in RMLS and you feel like it's doesn't look like your system, you're going to get both. So no fretting there. And I think that just pretty much applies to Irina, but and Julie. We'll have Southern Oregon available tomorrow as well for the flex. But without further ado, Kristen Rader is from Keller Williams Sunset Corridor, so in Portland, and built her successful real estate business based on what she learned working as an elementary school teacher. Asking why questions and listening intently allows her to discover each client's unique needs. Kristen serves on leadership boards and trains fellow realtors at a local and national level. She is top 1% of realtors in Portland metro area. So we're super lucky to have her.
Did you just make that up, or are you reading that off of something?
I was reading it off your bio that we
I was like, well, that
advertised
sounds so
on
impressive. Who wrote that about that lady?
We got skills over here.
That's funny.
All right, I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. All right, you guys, bear with me. I haven't taught in Ignite for probably 2 or 3 years now, and the last ones were in person. I've been lucky and haven't had to do a lot of Zoom. So if I fumble through screen sharing or anything else, I apologize in advance. Just to kind of build a little bit on what she said, I'm in my, oh my gosh, it'll be 19 years come May. And we joke that if Gary Keller walked through the office right now, he would, hit me with a lightning bolt and say, you're doing it all wrong. Because I don't necessarily follow the traditional model. I have a very small team. I have a full-time, admin is not the correct term, operations manager. She runs everything. Actually just started with a new one a little over a week and a half ago, which has been going fantastic. So full-time there. And then I have a buyer's agent that works with about 75% of my buyers. And then I work solely with all the listings, and I'm quite involved with even just any transaction. I'm a bit of a control freak. I close about anywhere from 60 to 80 homes a year. The older I get and the more my price point goes up, my goal is actually to sell fewer homes. I have 2 boys that are I've got a high schooler and a middle schooler, so they keep me pretty busy. And I also run, my husband and I are investors in real estate. So we own 10 single family rentals, and we're partial owners in 5 apartment complexes. I manage our single family rentals. So life is pretty busy. So my business model is fairly simple. I started, in 2003 with John L. Scott. And the first conference I ever went to was Brian Buffini. So my whole business is modeled after Sphere business. I don't cold call. Quite honestly, I don't even warm call. I don't call my own Sphere. It's embarrassing. I would fail bold miserably. But I do believe in handwritten notes. That is huge. And I don't pay Zillow. I don't buy leads. I don't do open houses. So I can answer all your questions about that kind of thing, but I haven't done an open house in years. So that's me in a nutshell. And then I suppose if you guys, it sounds like I listened to each of your introductions everyone's pretty new in this. Would you say everyone is, I guess, raise your hand if you're a month or less? Okay, how about, is anyone over a month?
Yes.
Okay, a couple of you, okay. Before I dive into this Ignite PowerPoint, does anybody have any burning questions for me?
You mentioned you focus on sphere business, but then you said you don't call your spheres. That I didn't understand what you.
I know, right? Gary Keller's just shaking his head right now. So I am sphere based. So I'm old school. Once a month, actually 4 to 6 weeks. I've been kind of lazy because it's been so busy. My sphere, which is about, I don't know, I think it's like 500 right now, gets a postcard from me in their mailbox, not even email. And I've designed it myself. I've never purchased content. I write all my own content. And then my farm, I did start geographic farming about, oh gosh, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. So I live out in the sticks. I live rural, and my kids go to an elementary or K-8 school that is all rural. And so nobody was really farming that area. And so there's 1,200 of those homes that are not a farm. It's not a farm I can go door knock or anything else, because I mean there's long gated driveways and people with guns, but the average price point's like 800,000. So it's a pretty good farm to have. So they also get a snail mail postcard once every 4 to 6 weeks. That, I mean, other than client parties and social media, I do pop buys, but that's it. Seriously, I've built my business on snail mail postcards. So you don't need anything fancy to do that. And you guys are also new. You could probably do email. I have yet to send out a bulk email. So it makes me sound like I'm 100, but I'm only 45. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I've taken both 4 times, and I fail at the calling part. I hate calling people. I hate telling people I'm a realtor. I feel like we're just one notch above car salesmen. I know that has changed over the years for me, but I don't bring it up at parties, but now everyone does know I'm a realtor. So everyone is constantly asking me questions about real estate. So just, it's just about proving your worth, not proving that you're a realtor, if that makes sense.
Did you start that way, or did you end up now that way?
No, I've always been that way. I was runner-up for Rookie of the Year my first year. So just a background about me. I was a teacher for 5 years. I had my own dog grooming business, and I did grow up where I work. So I had a pretty solid base of my sphere to begin with. I took all my old students, families that I was, kept in touch with, all my old dog grooming clients. I taught technology classes back in the day as a teacher. So I started out with a pretty good sphere. All the teachers I knew, a huge chunk of my beginning business was all the teachers I knew. Because if someone respects you and trusts you in the career you had or have before real estate, they're naturally going to know that you're going to be good in real estate because they trust you. That's all it takes. And I know I'm so impressed. You guys are like, I added 5, I added 10, I added 15. I can't think of the last time I added anybody to my database, and I'm going to work on that. I've been kind of sitting back these days just because, like I said, I do have a fairly busy life. And so when you go to business planning and you go to these things, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with people saying, these goals that seem unattainable. It's really just about putting in the work and doing it. The business will come. It really will. And you don't always have to go bigger, better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I will dive into this PowerPoint, and trust me, I will get you out of here early. Okay. All right. So bear with me again, because I have learning how to get back to this screen sharing thing. That's the wrong button. Hang on. Share. All right. And then I'm supposed to remind me, you guys, what do I hit? I hit, how do I get it to play? Play from start. Is that it? All right. Did it work? Okay. I saw a thumbs up. All right. Let's get on this. Can you see me? Because now I feel like I'm staring at the camera making faces. I can't. Oh no, am I screen? Great. Action reveal, note cards, laptop. Okay, we did all that. Okay. Right, 10 notes. Okay, so if we're on the daily 10-4, yeah, absolutely. The more you can do, I stuck with my same 240 contacts, I swear, for probably the first 8 years of my think my career, I wasn't good about adding new contacts. And I'm always the secret contact. So if you're trying to add new contacts, the best way to do that is to go into whatever RMLS or whatever program you guys are in, and literally find your friends if they already owned a home, go into them and grab their address out of the tax IDs. That's how I did it a lot in the beginning, because I was too embarrassed to say, you know, hey, I need you to join me in this. I did send out an announcement of, hey, I'm a realtor now. So that is really important to do. Definitely speaking with 10 people, keep writing 10 notes. If you don't have a topic on which to send them a note, I know that's kind of hard. You could also, reach out via social media. You could either, Instagram or Facebook, and just write them a private message saying, hey, you can always comment on things that are going on in their life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a handwritten note if you don't have a topic to actually talk to them about. Previewing 10 homes, I would definitely recommend that. There's so many vacant homes right now. It is so helpful. And I always tell new agents, I set up hot sheets. And I'm gonna, like she said, I'm gonna talk about RMLS. I don't know how the other system works, but we have hot sheets that you can set up, and I set mine up by area. So every morning and every night when I'm busy, I only do it in the morning, but I will look at all the new listings that came on for the day. In each area. So like area 148, 149, and I separate them out. And then I look at price reductions, and I look at back on markets, so that I can kind of get a gauge for how much new inventory do we have? What are the prices doing? And then what I've been noticing lately is price reductions. That little bottom column is getting bigger and bigger and bigger as our market is shifting. So that's to get out and do those in person though, is really important as well. All right, lead generate. I'm not going to make you do that. You're welcome.
Do you send those price hot sheets to your clients every day?
No, I don't send anything to my clients. That is simply for my own knowledge to understand what each neighborhood is doing.
Okay.
Yeah. If I've got a buyer client, then I'm sending them homes, but that's coming from a slightly different source. Handwritten notes, again, I'm not going to make you do this, but I do strongly recommend that. So moving forward, once you've got a little bit of capital built up, I have custom thank you notes that I should have brought one in. I'm not in my office. Cards, folding cards that have my logo. They're really cute. They say thank you. That makes it super easy. Someone once in the beginning of my career said, always use a really fat Sharpie, because you can write big and write less and you're done quicker. You don't have to get into too much detail. And then with the anniversary cards, I always do home anniversary cards. Obviously it's going to take time for you guys to build that up, but on every person's the anniversary of their home purchase, they get a card and a gift card, handwritten note from me in the mail to do that. So for example, if you needed to, you could, if you have a new buyer, you send them a thank you note, thank you for hiring me. If you have a new seller, send them a thank you note, thank you for hiring me, those kinds of things. Get your head in the game. Okay, pricing. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Pricing is my least favorite part of this job. I agonize over it. Oh, it's so challenging. Okay, so making it happen, your turn. Okay, local market statistics. You guys should all be getting the TMO reports from your MCA. Those are really important. So like in my email folder, I have, in Outlook, I slide it over. I just have a little folder called TMO. I always slide those, save them for easy access. Those are great when you take them with you either to a listing appointment. You can use them with buyers. I don't use them with buyers as much, but you can, because those are really helpful. It shows that we talk a lot about the months of inventory. My conversation I'm having with the TMOs right now is, if you look at the months of inventory, and actually that also comes from RMLS, but it's creeping up. It's gone up 0.1 a tenth each month now. So for 4 months in a row, inventory has been building. It's imperceptible. Like you can barely feel it. If you are an agent that's been doing a lot of business, you can tell that it's slowing down, but slowing down in the fact that it just means there's maybe not as many multiple offers. But today I was saying one of my listings this morning got 6 offers, and then I just submitted an offer before I jumped in here, and the agent at last count, they were at 10 and I was number 11. So when we say slowing down, it's not all markets, it's not all price points. You have to be really in tune with that. And if you're not making offers and having listings at the volume of a high producer, using that TMO can give you virtually the same information. Is anybody using that yet, the TMO?
Yes.
Okay. When I have a listing presentation, I will go into the TMO and use the highlight feature in preview or, whatever Adobe, and I highlight the price point that that person is in to really help draw their attention to what's going on with that. And then in terms of, market statistics, I'm sure you guys have all heard Chris Suarez talk. He is amazing with statistics. So whenever he does talk, I think I get him once a week. You guys probably get him at least maybe once every other week. I pick 3 things that he says and I write down those statistics because I'm not necessarily a statistics person myself. And I will use those as speaking points. Either, if you run into someone in the grocery store and they ask you, hey, how's work? How's real estate? They don't want to just hear, oh, it's great. They want to, if you give them numbers, even if they're not a numbers person, it makes you sound so much smarter, right? And it makes you sound in tune with the market. And so I don't necessarily go looking for those. I rely on Chris to give me those. And then, each week it changes. Have you guys, I can't really see all of you. I can only see like one of you and then the rest of you have blacked out screens. So that's kind of disconcerting for me as a teacher, but are you guys using those market statistics yet?
Good idea. I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who
I
is
actually
this,
printed
Chris?
them out house this weekend.
Say that one more time.
I actually printed the TMO out for my open house this weekend and brought it with me.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really
I don't know
helpful 'cause
who
you can-
Chris is. I don't know who Chris is. I don't
Oh
think
my
I
gosh.
get-
Okay. Well, you'll meet him soon enough via Zoom. He is the owner of all of our franchises.
Oh, okay, so not mine, but okay.
Oh, are you at a different one?
I am, yeah.
What are you in?
Central Oregon. So
Oh, does he not? I just assumed that everybody on this
I
call was
don't
part of
think
the.
so.
Okay. Experience Network.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll have to get you logged into one of them because he's amazing when he speaks. His brain is much more math minded than mine.
Got it.
Um,
Kristen,
yeah.
I have a question. So what are those 3 things, 3 stats you take from Chris?
So, well, if I were using the TMO, I would tell you to use the days on market, or not the days on market, I'm sorry, months of inventory is a super important one. You can look at the percent of list price to sales price ratio. That's also a really important one because you can see if things, with a buyer, if you say, look, all these homes are selling at 102% of list, you don't say, don't waste my time, but a beginning buyer will want to offer list and you show them that number and you're like, well, to have a fighting chance, we're going to have to come in offering over list price because of this number. Chris comes up with all kinds of different numbers each week. He combs all of the, news reports and that kind of thing. So he'll pull stuff that in a meeting, he'll like, hey, did you guys all read the local article from blah, blah, blah. And everyone stares blankly. He's like, okay, I'll tell you what it said.
Okay, good.
All right, let's see, next one, pricing strategies. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is page 19. You guys, I don't have anything else to reference. Is that just, do you have a different packet than what I'm staring at here? Do you have a packet?
We do. Ours has
Which
all the
session is that?
pages.
Diana, do you know which session is that?
This is session 5.
Okay, thank you.
So the screen I'm looking at, do you have something more than this?
Yeah, we have every single page, so it goes between.
That would have been
the-
helpful for them to give that to me.
So
Dang, I don't have that.
We can keep up with you. We'll take notes.
Yeah, bummer. Okay, because it says I feel like it's referencing something else, but I don't know what that is. Let me see really quick what else is going on here. Okay. Okay. So just because I'm gonna have to kind of go off the cuff here, in pricing, when you're pricing a listing, what I do, and stop me if you've already seen a class that had this or something, but you go into MLS or whatever your MLS system is. And I first do, if I know the neighborhood exactly, I will do a polygon search to narrow down that neighborhood. If I don't know the neighborhood, I'll do a 1/4 mile radius search. If it's a condo complex, you can easily use legal. A lot of times I'll use the legal address as my search. So then I'll just look at the last 3 months of sales. I'll look at the last 6 months of sales. Anything beyond 6 months is not relevant in terms of pricing. If you have to go back 12 months to find something similar, then you're going to have to add on about a 6% per month of appreciation at the rate we've been going. So then I'll look for the most similar home. You have to remember that one levels can only be compared to other one levels. You cannot use a split level against a one level comp. They're completely different. In terms of ages, right? If you had a 3-bedroom 2002 house with a 1977 3-bedroom house, those aren't going to be the same. So you really have to look, for key factors there. So the best strategy, if you can come up with 3 active comps, 3 pending comps, and 3 sold comps, that's helpful. I tend to work in, especially as an acreage property, and there are never similar comps. So you're going to have to, it's a little bit different pricing strategy. But if you get lucky, you're going to be in a fairly homogeneous neighborhood where, suburbia, where they're all pretty similar. And then looking at bedrooms and bathrooms, a 4-bedroom is different than a 3-bedroom. A 3-car garage is different than a 2-car garage. So some people use CMA programs. If you aren't paying for one like Cloud CMA, RMLS in Portland has a CMA you can use. I have run the gamut over the years. I have used the pretty fancy ones. I've paid for those. I've stopped using those. I'm kind of back to where I started in that I'm super simple. And that's part of my script with sellers is like, I don't have a dog and pony show. There's no smoke and mirrors. Here's the RMLS pages that go with the comps for your home. And I go over those. But I also really always like to print out the results page. So when you do a RMLS search and you see the actives, the pendings, and then the solds, it shows you all 3 features. And that, gosh, if I were in front of you right now, I could show you one, but I really like that because in a market where it's appreciating, you're going to see the sold prices are here, the pending prices are even higher, and then the actives are even higher. So when you can see in a certain community, this happens once in a while, that the active prices are less than the sold prices, you have to ask yourself, gosh, what's going on in this neighborhood or this complex? Why are they coming in lower? The other thing that's really helpful with those is when you pull your solds, you pull what it listed for versus what it sold for, because that's going to be key to helping your listing price. You'll often see that it listed at 425 and it sold at 475, or it listed at 450 and sold at 475. So when you show your potential listing client that, your seller, you can say, look, if I give you a price range of 450 to 475, the lower we can price within that range, the higher you're going to end up. And that's the script I use often. Is it's kind of like the clearance end cap at Target. Just because it has a yellow clearance on it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best price. Even sometimes it's only $1 less than it used to be. But if you can make a consumer, a buyer, feel like they're getting a deal, people will bid up that bidding war a lot faster than if you start at the top end of the pricing. Does that make sense? Does that generate questions for you guys?
I do have a question. Our home is kind of a unicorn in that it's a 1-story home on a corner lot with 1/3 of an acre. And I've never been able to find 3 months of comps for it, just trying to look at my own home. And when I've talked to realtors in the past before becoming a realtor myself, I've always heard, well, you want to just go as low as you can to start there and then go up. And I'm like, but we're kind of a unicorn. Like we're kind of, so how would you deal with someone like me that
yeah, no, that's a great question, because I deal with a lot of unicorns in acreage property. And so the analogy I use in that case, and also pricing, when you're a realtor, pricing your own home is literally the most impossible thing. But I say it's kind of like a bullseye. When you picture a target and the bullseye is in the middle, we want to get as close to the middle as we can. But when we have a unicorn or an outlier, sometimes it's okay to start at that higher price, because you don't know what buyer is sitting out there waiting for that exact home. Man, I've been looking for a 1 level, on a big lot, because I want to do gardening. I had one similar where I competed against 5 other realtors. I did not come in the highest in price. In fact, I think I came in the lowest. Because for me, I struggle. I usually will, if I lose a listing, it's because I came in too low and someone else who priced higher will get it. And I know that about myself, and I try to fight it. But I also don't want to take an overpriced listing. But these folks, after they interviewed everybody, said, we actually liked you the best. We didn't love your price. So would you be willing to work with us on that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. You're a unicorn. And it really was. And so we compromised in the middle of what they wanted and what I thought it should be at. And then when, it goes up in a crazy bidding war and goes over all expectations. So we did start on the higher side that I was comfortable with. My strategy with that, or my script for that, is, let's say I told them 450 to 475. And in this market, it's a little bit different. I'm thinking of like 2 or 3 years ago, but if they say, oh man, I really want to try 485, I'll say, okay, I call that the try it price. If you want to try 485 for 2 weeks, I'll let you do that. But then after 2 weeks, if you have not sold, we are dropping to the price I want to be at, or I recommend for you, but that's the try it price. Because in past markets, you would know really quick. Now in this market, in the last year and a half, right, you know, in the first weekend if it's going to sell or not. Up until about 6 weeks ago, when I went on a listing presentation, I'd say, okay, guys, here's my formula. We're going to stage on Monday or Tuesday. We're going to have the professional photographer on there on Tuesday or Wednesday. We're going to go live Thursday. You're going to go to the beach for the weekend. When you come back on Monday, we're going to be sold without fail, right? Except for maybe a unicorn property or a country property that we know might take longer. And that was all. Every Monday, we were processing multiple offers on multiple listings. Right now, it is a little bit different. It could take a week. It could take 2 weeks. They may get full price instead of a bidding war. So then you have to change your pricing strategy a little bit, and you don't want to start too low, because what if nothing else came in? So now we're, I think, almost erring on the side of caution of just going more to the middle of the price range rather than at the bottom of it. Does that make sense? I still do like to list on Thursdays though. Okay, so that's kind of pricing strategy. I'm trying to think what else I can talk to you about pricing. If you don't know the area or you're new, please don't hesitate to ask your colleagues. Most of them will absolutely help you out with it. I mean, even 18 years in the business, I will almost, I mean, not almost always, but if I have one that I'm like, oh man, I don't know, I'll go ask 2 other agents. Or I will look up, like I'm selling one in Charbonneau right now. I don't sell much in Charbonneau. It's kind of a unique neighborhood. I looked up the last 6 months, year of sales. I found the agent who sells most of it in there. Obviously, it's her geographic farm. I called her up. I said, can I pick your brain? She was more than willing to do that. Most agents are, you know, and just say, hey, you know, what do you think about this, that, or the other? And they're pretty helpful. Let's see, what else? Comparative market analysis. I don't even know what the screen means. Do you guys have any background on that? Let's see. All right, pricing recommendations. When sellers want to go, oh, look at that, I already nailed that slide, right? And I can, you guys, I can see you, but then I can't see all the words underneath on the right where you guys are. When sellers want to go above your recommended price, which, okay, that is interesting. So let's talk about that just for a second. If, so right now, for example, I've got a seller who's comparing 6 different offers. 2 of them came in with appraisal gap coverage, meaning, let's see, so we listed at 425. Our high offer right now is at 522. The majority came in right around that 575, 585, or sorry, 485, 485 mark. The 2 highest ones came in with appraisal gap coverage. So one said, no matter what the price appraises at, we're going to pay the full difference. Another said, we'll pay up to $30,000 appraisal gap coverage. The offer I wrote for my buyer today, we actually got my lender to run it through underwriting ahead of time before we made the offer, and they can waive the appraisal completely. So those are all strategies when you have a multiple offer situation to get your offer accepted. None of this even existed until a few years ago. A few years ago, if you wrote over a list price, you just all prayed that it appraised. And if it didn't, then you always renegotiated it. Does anybody have questions on that? Nope. Okay.
Sorry, I do.
Yeah, go for it.
So you said that they can get the appraisal waived. Is that
Yeah.
just on a certain type of loan?
So if your buyer has enough down payment and the property qualifies, I think my understanding is if the property has sold fairly recently in the last 5 years, when they run it through underwriting, they see the property, the price, the down payment, and the buyer's qualifications, and they can waive the appraisal right then and there.
Okay. Okay.
So it's specific to each property. And it doesn't work if you don't have a huge down payment.
I hear
Okay.
there are drive-by appraisals now that have been, they were stopped for a while and now they're going again. Can you talk about that? Like, how will they know if it's a special property inside?
It's a great question. I have only had one drive-by appraisal in the last maybe year and a half. It's still very uncommon. So most appraisers, so I say I started in 03. The back then, just to give you a little bit of history on it, is appraisers worked specifically for each lender. So my lender would be like, hey, Joe, I've got another appraisal for you. There was a partnership there. If the appraisal came in, the lender was happy, right? So did we ever have appraisals that didn't come in at value? Nope, they almost always did. So then when the market shot up in 06, 07, and everybody's doing 100% loans and borrowing their closing costs and financing more than the actual price, that's when it started to go downhill, because when those people lost their jobs and the banks had to turn on and foreclose on them, they had appraised, but were they worth that? No. So then when that all went south, appraisers had to go into a separate, what's called an appraisal management company. And then the lender calls the appraisal management company, and it's kind of a funnel, and they reach down, grab an appraiser who has no allegiance or alliance with the mortgage broker. And so that what's that, colluding or whatever that term is, that can't happen anymore, right? And so the appraisers are more on the hook for finding out true value versus just having it match the sales price. But drive-by appraisals, I haven't heard much of.
Thanks.
Yeah. So tip number 2 is just talking about price per square foot. One thing that I always do, I would highly recommend you guys do this. So when I go to a listing presentation, I print out the RMLS. So many homes now, right, have already sold. So I print out the RMLS, and on the very bottom, either my assistant or we have three numbers we put at the bottom every single time. It's what does Zillow think the home is worth? What does Realtor.com think the home is worth? And what does Redfin think the home is worth? Sometimes in a homogeneous neighborhood, those are all gonna be real similar. Other times they're gonna be all out of whack. But the consumer, our sellers, have almost always gone to at least one of those sites, usually Zillow, to figure out, they think Zillow's, super smart. And why isn't my house worth what your value is different than Zillow's value. So you want to know what that value is going into it. Zillow is simply, all those are simply, they're AI. They use an algorithm that uses the price per square foot of the average homes that have sold around it, and they times it by the square footage of what that house is, right? So does Zillow know if it's been upgraded inside? No. Does Zillow know if it's a corner lot? No. So I always use that as, you guys, you have to remember that I'm going in your property. When I'm looking at your home compared to comps, I am looking at, upgraded kitchen. Does it back to green space? All of those are incredibly important. So you really can only use price per square foot in a limited number of applications. Is it a good starting point? Absolutely. You can try starting there, but then think that's an average, right? So is my home above average? Is it average, or is it below average? And that's even a question you could ask your seller if they're arguing with you on the price. Say, okay, well, compared to your neighbor's houses, would you say that yours is better above average or below average? Or is it just like theirs? Does that make sense? Questions on that? Nope. Yep. No. Okay.
I have a question. How do you know, for example, if it's corner lot, how much value it will bring extra, or how to estimate this kind of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you're an appraiser, you have this fantastic software. You click a button, right? Extra car garage, corner lot. They have values that are predetermined. Someone once told me that an extra garage bay is worth $10,000. An extra bedroom is worth $15,000, extra bathroom. So you can try to use those. It might be fun for you guys to go to an appraisal class for them to explain that. But in terms of actual everyday usage, when a subdivision is sold, any home has a high value lot, so maybe it backs to a green belt, or it's a corner lot, or it's slightly larger, they charge your buyer a premium, a lot premium for that. Sometimes your buyer will get that back, sometimes they won't. So you have to look at hopefully the comps, and you can say, oh, look at all the homes on this side of the street that back to Greenbelt, they sold for about $10,000 more than the ones on the inside of the development. And so there's no actual value you can, because each one would be so different, assigned to it. You just have to really look at the numbers to figure out what they're doing. So with a view lot, a view can add anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000, depending on how good the view is. That's a huge one.
how about, for example, you don't face any neighbors and you're facing a park, like you see beautiful trees and surrounded by other homes? Will it be considered you have a beautiful view?
Yeah, so that's not a view per se, but then it's privacy and amenities. It's curb appeal. So if you priced that home the exact same as the home across the street, or 2 streets down that didn't have that, then your house most likely will sell for more. So it's kind of the same on the flip side, is if you have a house that backs to a busy road or is in the entrance to a subdivision, that's going to take the value down by anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000.
Thank you.
Well, darn it, page 23, you guys, I don't have any of that. To determine a recommended price. Whoa. I don't see why I would go through that, because we're all looking at the same house. We're not all looking at RMLS. Are you guys all cool skipping that? I can't see you, so someone has to say yes or no.
Do you know if we'll get I find RMLS confusing. I've been on there quite a bit and I don't know. I'm searching for things. I mean, the actual use, are we supposed to get a class through RMLS itself for how to use the software?
RMLS has all kinds of classes. They have a great training program. So you just need to go into wherever I haven't done it in a while, but wherever their training manuals are, I believe they've got videos. I mean, gosh, in the beginning, I would go out to the RMLS and take the classes in person, but it's all online now. So I would take every single one you could.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I think like my favorite things in RMLS for pricing, one thing you may not know, and it might be too advanced, but when you do an advanced search, and I have to do it from memory because otherwise I have to look at my screen. I guess I could probably figure out how to do that, but you can look at the standard view, which is like the address and the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the square footage and then the list price, but then you can customize that however you want. So I have a couple of custom ones where if it's an acreage property, like I'll throw acreage in, or if I'm using it for CMA, I'll have original price versus the sold price. That's always a fun one to put in there because that helps your clients see that as well. But there are some really cool things RMLS can do. It's also pretty archaic in a lot of ways too.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. I've heard that the Central Oregon RMLS is way better than ours.
If I could comment something really quick, she was wondering if there was any orientation. In one of the emails that I got once I signed up for the RMLS, I did get an email that says that there's an orientation you can do online. So maybe if you already signed up for it, it should be in one of your emails.
Oh, there you go. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, for anyone that hasn't taken it, the orientation is mandatory. You have to take that.
There you go. And if you ever need help, man, you guys, they do have one of the most responsive help desks ever. I mean, I still call them, with questions to this day. They always answer. They're always super helpful. So don't hesitate to call them. I feel like somehow I went through all the slides in like 5 minutes, so that can't possibly be right. Did I miss a bunch of pages, you guys? What's going on here? I'm dying to know what's in your packets.
We had some materials before where you started and we have a bunch after.
Why don't I have those? That's kind of dumb, huh?
Some of it is related to other things. Let me see.
I'm going to figure out, let's see.
So Make It Happen pricing is on our page 11. How markets work, local market conditions, pricing criteria, market
okay.
Pricing principles and strategies. It's kind of stuff you've talked about. Windows of opportunity.
Okay, so in your packet, she did email that to me. Can you get your head in the game? Learning as a process. All kinds of stuff here. Local market conditions, how market works. Okay, so if you go to your packet, if you want to, otherwise I'll just speak from it. It just means I'm looking at it instead of looking at you. On page 11, I believe, it talks about market dynamics. So one of the I'm gonna try to get back to you guys here. One of the scripts I say a lot is, you know, we talk about supply and demand. People always ask, when is the best time to sell? Shouldn't I wait till spring? But when you look at the RMLS stats that come out and any stats, sure, there's a lot more homes that sell in the spring. It's simply because there's more homes for sale. There is nothing wrong with selling right now. You know, it's easier actually to sell right now, I feel like, than in December, because we've still got some leaves on the trees. The yards still look decent. If you have a listing in January, you know, the yards look terrible. It's harder. But what I tell people is that buyers, the buyers from about September to February, they are serious buyers. They have to buy. They're not just tire kickers. They are out. They're going to make you a solid offer. They've got to be in by either before Thanksgiving or before Christmas or before school starts in January. They are awesome buyers to be around. And the buyers don't have as much. So inventory is lower traditionally in the fall. They don't have as much to pick from in theory, right? So it's actually a better time to sell. I encourage all of my listings. We start in January, hounding everybody like, you need to get on before spring break, because once the spring hits, there's a lot more homes on the market. Buyers have a lot more to choose from. So if they don't love everything about your house, they're going to wait for the next one to come on the market. Skewed a little bit by the last 2 years of crazy low inventory. Sorry, I'm hitting somebody here. So I always just say that you're better off trying to get in before all of that. Does that make sense? I can hear somebody's phone ringing. Is that me? Are you guys?
Somebody needs to mute.
I'd mute here. Try muting people. Maybe it's her. Okay. So that's kind of one of my scripts there. And I always just say it's supply and demand. When I do a CMA and I pull up active, pending, and sold, if there's nothing in the actives, I'm like, oh man, you guys, we need to get on now, because we want to get on before. What if your neighbor all of a sudden has to fire sale their property and they come on at a really low price, right? So we want to get on before anything like that happens. The other thing that's helpful to do when you're pulling comps is, you know, on the sold what it listed for and what it sold for. On pendings, our rule ethically is we're not supposed to say what the price is until it closes. But I routinely call the agents that are on the pending sales. And I say, okay, how many offers did you get? I know a lot of them, and usually they'll tell me the price. And if they won't or aren't comfortable with it, I say, can you give me a ballpark? You know, are you way high over list or a little bit higher over list, or I can give them a specific number. So then when you are meeting with your client, they're impressed that you took the initiative to call those agents and find out, because then you could say, man, your neighbor's house that was 4 doors down, identical floor plan, they had 6 offers. That means there's 5 other buyers basically waiting for your house. So we have supply and demand, we've got it. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to slide you guys to the side here and look back at this one. So that was market dynamics, determination of value. Yeah, I mean, the most common script for that is, I don't determine the price, you don't determine the price, the market is going to determine the price. So if we start on the low side, it will always end up right where it should and be high. If your house hasn't sold in a weekend, we missed the mark. Now, market's slowing down. So now we change that to 2 weeks. If your house has not sold in 2 weeks, we have missed the mark in pricing, and we do not want to be sitting waiting at this price, because the longer we sit on the market, buyers are savvy. They're looking at Zillow, they're looking at Redfin, and they can see that your house has been on the home market for 14 days. So either they're going to give you a low offer, or it gets pegged as, oh, what's wrong with that house? Even me as an agent, I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's been on the market for 3 months. What's wrong with it? That is not what we want as sellers or listing agents to have happen to our property. So I'm having the discussion now ahead of time of, hey, if we haven't sold in 2 weeks, if we started at 550, we're going to 525. So we don't do $1,000 price reductions, price corrections. We don't do 5,000. We do minimum of 10. We try to get to 25. And here's my analogy for that I use with sellers. I say, I'm not a fisherman. I usually, depending on my clientele, I'm like, fishing is the most boring thing in the world to me. But when you go on the market, you have to picture an ocean or a lake, and all the fish in the sea are the buyers, because we have a pent up demand. We have so many buyers right now that have come and gone there. They've made multiple offers. They've lost out on offers. They're waiting anxiously for that next listing to come on the market. So when we drop your home into RMLS, there's going to be a feeding frenzy of all the little fishies. All those buyers are going to come to your house. One of them is going to love it. Maybe 10 of them will love it. If none of them love it, in 2 weeks time frame, we got to flip that around. You are now sitting in the ocean of homes that have not sold. You are waiting for that next buyer to drop in. The buyers are not dropping in as quickly as homes are coming on the market, right? So you're going to be sitting there waiting. We don't want to be waiting. So let's say you have a home priced at 500,000. If we go to 495, the same buyer pool are looking at it. If you've seen a buyer get pre-approved, they're going to be pre-approved up to 500. We need to get to the next buyer approval level. So we need to get to 475, maybe 480, minimum 485, because then it's buyers saying, oh, wow, I didn't even look at this house because it was priced at 500. Look what we can get for 475. The crazy thing is, you guys, I had one, and this is not the first time it's happened. It's happened twice in my career. We started at, let's say, 625, nothing. A week and a half later, we go to 600. A bidding war takes it up back to 625. What are the odds of that happening? It's so weird, but it happens. So you'll know when you hit that right price. Does anybody have questions on that? Nobody? Okay.
Can you talk again about how far you look in terms of geography for comparables?
Yeah, so let's say it's just a regular suburban neighborhood. I first used the legal address in the advanced search.
No.
Use a legal search. Can you guys all mute yourselves if you're not talking, please? What you can do is put in the legal, and especially like with a condo complex, that is really helpful. Because you just pull up that condo complex. So that'll pull up your exact neighborhood. And then that's the micro pricing, right? Because if you know this particular neighborhood can only be compared to this one, you've got a really good tight area. Plus, if you're lucky, you'll have the same floor plan. I have one of those right now that the floor plan is on the market and it's sold 4 times over the last 6 months. So we have a really good idea of what it should sell for. And then if you don't have that, or you want to go a little bit broader, I use a 1/4 mile radius. And then in country property, it's totally different. I usually use school boundary. Does that help? Okay, awesome. Let's see. Local market conditions. And so on your page 12, and I apologize for jumping around, but now that I found this, on your page 12, again, we talked about inventory. Inventory is key. Days on market is key. Price per square foot, and then those kinds of things. That is super important. When I say price per square foot, if you print out the results page and it says active, pending, and sold, it'll give you a little summary at the bottom of each of those. And I don't mind looking at those because it can be helpful in a really homogeneous neighborhood, like I said. But a lot of times people will reference that and you say, well, here's why or why not. We don't do that, use that. In terms of days on market, I was a teacher. So to me, the median is a more important number than the average. You could say, well, the average days on market is 9. You also need to look at the cumulative days on market, which is CDOM. That means if an agent had it on the market and then pulled it and then relisted it, and one agent had it on, it didn't sell, then another agent took it over. That CDOM is really the most important number. And I look at the median, because let's say the median is, or the average is, I don't know, 30. And then the median is 12. It means that out of those, like, let's say 6 homes, 5 sold really quickly. And then there was this one outlier, that 6th one took forever to sell for whatever reason. Most likely they started too high in price, it was coming down. So the median is really the more important number because there was one skewing the average. So I talk about that with my clients as well. Pricing criteria, I do actually use this script quite a bit. I say when we price your home, there's 4 factors, right? There's location, which we can't change. You either have a really good location, or you have an average location, or we have a substandard location, like let's say next to a busy road or next to a commercial building, Safeway, whatever. So location is set, we can't change that. Condition, we can absolutely change the condition. So that's, for me, that's where I give them a list of, I need you to repaint this room. I need you to repaint this room. I need you to remove all your valances. I need you to get the house professionally clean. We're going to stage it. Those conditions, refresh the backyard with bark dust. You can change that condition. That is all on you as the seller. And our job as the agent is to guide them through what makes the most sense monetarily, financially for them to do. If it means refinishing hardwood floors, if it means putting new carpet in, I tell everybody, grab a glass of wine and a paintbrush, repaint all your trim. It takes a couple nights, but that is one thing that's going to make your house pop. And then paint colors too. Staging is really important, but condition, location, and then, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The other one was, amenities. I don't use that. I just use condition, location, and price. So price is what we have to control as well. And so that's where that part of that is, knowing that if we haven't sold in the first weekend or week, 2 weeks, depending on what this market is, we've got to reduce or correct the price. Let's see, on your page 13.
Can I ask you a question? So I have a client who has this old Victorian, we're selling, and they recently, when they moved in, painted the downstairs dark blue. And I've been trying to gently advise that they paint the downstairs white, like they're repainting the rest of the house. And they have consistently, come back with, well, we just painted it, we like it, So I don't want to be offensive, but I think it's lowering their value. So what do you?
Yeah, that's tough. So how do I say that? When I started in real estate, you put a sign in the ground and you prayed. And then when the market tanked, you had to learn how to sell a house. And that's when I added a stager and professional photography. So like now today, every listing of mine is staged. So I can go through and say, oh gosh, I know you love this paint color. But in pictures, it's going to show dark. I always say we need to neutralize your house for the maximum audience possible. Otherwise, we're going to get people that turn your house down just because they think it costs more to repaint than it really does. And in fact, if client has, back in the old days, I should say, even 3 or 4 years ago, if a house wasn't selling and finally someone said, okay, I'll repaint the blue, I would send my professional photographer back out there to reshoot it. It shows that they respected your opinion and see value in it. So that's really important. But my script of that is, I am not a decorator. My husband's the decorator. And so let's do whatever these stagers tell us to do. The challenge with that is, because I'm with you. I feel like I don't want to offend somebody, or I'll preface it with, I don't want to offend you because I know you love it. And my house has all this too, but we're trying to sell a product here and we need to make it as universally as appealing as possible. So especially if it hasn't sold, the other thing you could do is try to send them recently sold properties that were all very neutrally painted and say, hey, here's some great examples of homes that sold quickly with neutral colored paint.
And then finally, I know in our market here in Eugene, we're told that most houses, the average being like 400 or 500. I think it's 4 something. Almost nobody is staging. I used to stage, so I want to stage, but I don't have like all this furniture to put in their home. I'm thinking about pulling my own and putting it in there. I'm like desperate to stage this house. So what do you recommend?
Well, I'm a little unique in the fact that all of my listings, my occupied listings are all professionally staged. So I have I have a staging company that comes in. We call it the HGTV transformation, jokingly, but that's part of my shtick when I go on a listing presentation is like, we're going to have stagers come in. We're going to there's 4 of us between the 2 stagers, myself and my assistant. We're going to tornado through your house. We're going to rearrange your furniture. We're going to rearrange your decor. I'm going to take those balances down. We're going to take the magnets out the fridge. And when we leave, your house is not going to feel like your home anymore. It is going to feel like it's going to feel bare. It's going to feel, it's not going to feel like that. And so I try to prep them mentally. But I believe, and my script for that too is, yeah, sure, I could put your house on the market. We could sell it in a heartbeat. But my job is to get you the most amount of money and the least amount of time. And staging makes a real big difference. Now, for a vacant home, or let's step back. So occupied homes, basically what we're doing is we're taking most of people's stuff out because we all live with way more than we need. So we're schlepping all their stuff to the garage. And people get that. Some people don't have much. I have one right now, the one that got the offers. It's the sweetest old gentleman. He's retiring on Friday. He's lived by himself for 50 years. Like there's not much. My stagers actually were kind enough to bring in pillows and some art and some, throws to to lighten it up just a little bit. And then I'm not charging him for that. I'm paying for that on my dime. I pay for all the staging. And then on vacant homes, I have a good conversation with clients of, here's why I believe you should invest in staging. I don't pay for that part of it. I will put, basically my stagings cost, I think they're $250. So I will put $250 toward a vacant staging. But I'll show them pictures of recently staged homes that I've sold, and it really truly makes a difference. And what I see is people don't have imagination. And when you're swiping through pictures on an iPad, if every room, like all 3 bedrooms, they're going to look the same. People can't identify with, okay, that was this bedroom, that was this bedroom. They can't get a sense for the space of the room. Will this really hold all my furniture? So I've been pretty successful in getting most people to stage their homes. It's a cost of it's usually about $2,000, $2,500. And I only stage for 1 month. My goal is to get because generally they don't need to be on the market that long. But if we had staging removed after a month, that's okay, because then the pictures at least look really good. Worst case scenario, I have twice used the virtual staging. I use boxbrownie.com. It's not perfect, but they're really willing to work with you when they stage. They'll send you back you send them the professional photos, and then they stage them and send them back to you. And you can be like, oh, I don't like that plant. I don't like this. They'll remove it. It's pretty realistic. If you just had that, I've had a couple that just were so hard to sell. So I've used that on those. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
And yes, I have often taken stuff out of my own home. I can't tell you how many times my family's come home and said, Mom, where are all the pillows from the couch? Where did they go? Or my husband will be like, wasn't there art on that wall this morning when I left for work? So usually I'll just do it for pictures and then I'll take it back home. Occasionally for my favorite clients, I'll leave my stuff at their house for a little bit longer for that first weekend on the market. We do what it takes, right? And when you do that, clients are that much more willing to then shout your name off the rooftops. They'll say to their friends, you're not going to believe what my realtor did. They brought their own stuff in from their home. It makes a difference in the long run. It's not just for that house, but then further on down the road. Okay, so let's see. So on your guys' page 13, it says, what are your current local market statistics? That's what I was saying. Even if you put a note on your iPhone or a sticky note on your purse, it is really important to know, hey, what's the average days on market? Those kinds of things. One thing we're adding to my social media that is coming up, we have a next week, we're going to plan out my social media for the year as best we can. I've noticed some larger groups are posting on Mondays statistics for the week by either neighborhood, or like if you're in Portland, Beaverton, Hillsborough, or you want to specialize in, or even a broad statistic. People do like to know, even if they're not buying or selling, what is happening. Because sometimes the media skews the numbers or doesn't really understand how to interpret them. So being up on those numbers is really helpful. Because even if you just memorize one, it comes out and you sound really smart. Pricing condition on your page 14. So when I go on a listing appointment, I have a guide. I have a printed out guide, spiral bound, that I go through people. I use what's on your page 14. That graphic is in my guide. That's really helpful. All right, on your page 15, I have that graphic in there as well. So that's a really important one if you guys are trying to figure out when you're sitting brand new in a listing presentation and you don't know what to do with your hands, or you don't remember what to say. If you guys can create your own listing presentation, I believe Keller Williams already has some that you can just put your own logo on or print out. That's really helpful for you. Also, it tells that seller that you're prepared. I would definitely recommend. It was years before I had anything like that, and then each year I just generally refine mine. But that's a really great graphic too. That one on page 15 kind of goes along with my, fish in the ocean analogy of, we want to get that. It's most important in that first week, 2 weeks. 16. Yeah, we often say don't chase the market. So, because like if the market's going down, you want to get ahead of it. We don't even need to talk about that script because it's not applicable in this market. But on your page 16, if you have it, where it says rising market, you can get caught up in a client's or a potential seller saying, well, gosh, my neighbor sold for 450. I have these 5, better features. I've remodeled my bathroom. I've put in the new sod out back. I think mine should be worth more. What you should say to them is, it's great, but let's start either where they started and let the bidding happen, or just at the same price that they closed at. But I always usually like to try to start underneath that price. The most common things you guys will get is when you say, the conversation I have with a seller before I meet with them is, okay, how old is your roof? How old is your furnace? How old is your hot water heater? Do you have AC? And then my mother-in-law was one of my very first clients. And I remember she said, well, I just put a new deck on and I just put a new roof on. Well, that doesn't necessarily add value. If your home had a deck and now you have a new deck, you still have a deck. All homes have to be sold with a roof. So while a new roof is fantastic, it's not nearly as much of a talking point as an elderly roof that needs to be replaced. That is an issue. A new roof is not an issue, but it doesn't necessarily add a ton of value. It's going to help it sell. So there's a difference between upgrades and maintenance. And it's embarrassing sometimes to have to help people understand that. Oh, I just repainted. Well, that's good. You needed to. That's often too, you guys, I'm going to dive, just because we've got the time, a little bit too into when I walk into a house at a listing appointment. And forgive me if it's something you've already heard in another class, but I think it's good to hear how each agent maybe does it. Is I actually have people give me a tour of their home. They're going to point out, all the things they like. And I always say, I hate to be pessimistic and I don't want to point out all the negative things, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through as a buyer's agent, and I'm going to point out to you the things that a buyer's agent is going to point out to their buyer. And let's kind of make a list here of things what are these things that we can fix? What are the things we're going to let go? And what are the things that are going to add the most value for you and help you get sold? Because so often, if you guys walk around your house today, I know I do this. I'm like, oh man, I meant to get to that paint touch up, or I've been meaning to do, this over here. We let it go because we're living there. And then when they go to sell, they really do have to, I call it the honey-do list. Like, you guys got to get your honey-do list done. That's really important. But I do always feel bad. I'm like, oh, don't hate me for pointing these things out. And I'm notorious for looking up at the ceiling and being like, oh, when did that leak happen? I'm not kidding. Half the people will be like, oh, I never even noticed that. Okay. Super important. So those are really things. Okay. Declining market. We will skip that because we're not there. Oh, look at that. Page 18. Don't be afraid to be honest. I always say, one of my scripts is, like I said, I don't have a dog and pony show. There's no smoke and mirrors. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm going to say it like it is. And we're going to go from there, because what you don't want to do is, I don't want to tell them the price that they want to hear if it's way above where I think it is, because I'd rather disappoint them now than just say, oh yeah, totally, we can sell it for that. And then have to do price reduction after price reduction after price reduction. They're going to end up upset with you and blame it on you, versus if you'd just been honest with them in the first place. Does that make sense? It's hard. And when you're new, and sometimes even to this day, I cringe. One thing you're supposed to ask ahead of time, and I'm not always good about, is, well, what do you think your home is worth? Or what do you need to get out of it? 75% of the people will tell you. And that's good to know, because then you know what their expectation is and you can go into it. In an appreciating market, it's a lot easier, man. I'll tell you, in 2009, 2010, 2011, it was brutal, because, they'd think their house was worth 350,000. I'm like, the best I can do is get you 300 and work from there. That was hard. In this market, it's a little bit different, but when you know what their expectation is, you can know going into it whether the price you think you're preparing yourself for, oh man, they're not going to be happy with this, or, oh, we're within reason. So that's really an important question to ask.
You just said when you were going through the home, you'd walk through like you're the buyer's agent, and you would think of 3 things or question 3 things. What things need to be fixed? What things will add value? And what was the 3rd thing?
Gosh, I didn't realize I said 3. Repairs and improvements really are the 2 main things. Like, gosh, carpet stretching, professional carpet cleaning. All of those little things make a big difference.
You said fix, let go, and add value.
Oh, thank you. Wow. And purging. Oh man, I say, okay, you and Goodwill are going to be like this right now because I need you to start getting rid of all this extra stuff. And most people appreciate that. They know they're going to be moving. So I always say, by the time you go on the market with me, you're going to be halfway packed. You're already halfway to where you need to be at the end.
You recommend they get like a pod or like a storage unit?
Yeah, here's the thing. If they can afford that, absolutely. My understanding is that pods are really hard to find right now. So I always say, if we stuff your garage and it looks like a tornado went through there, as long as there's a walking path to the furnace and the electrical panel, I'm cool with that. I would rather have your garage stuff full than your house stuff full. We need the house to look amazing. And most people, I just say, organize your garage as much as you can. Stagers, I know my stagers hate it when we do that, but they actually as well say, okay, let's just get everything we can to the garage. Scripting.
Can I ask a quick question about that? So what about a client that has put in some money or time into their garage and it does look nice? Do you think it's worth them cleaning it up and taking pictures of the garage too? How much value does that add?
And that's a great question. So yes, in order of priority, I would love for the garage to look amazing. How many of our garages actually do? It's pretty rare, right? Like for example, my dad has put in all this custom shelving. He has an air compressor. He has all these fancy extension cords, and he did that thing on the floor where it's all epoxied and beautiful. Someone like that, you're not really going to usually have to ask them to clean their garage because that is a room to them, right? That is their space. So generally you don't have to on those, but if you can, yeah, just get it as tidy as possible. Does that help?
Got it. Thank you. Yes, very much.
So on your page 18, this is a script that honestly you really should use. I can't say it word for word like that. It's like, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? That sounds so car salesman. I can't do that one. But what I do say is, look, like I'm going to tell you what I think, and we may not be on the same page about that, but I'd rather have a conversation with it now and have you be frustrated or, talk through this now than 6 months when your house hasn't sold. So find your comfortable way of saying that. And that is a really good one to have. Okay. Trying to get back to this. Kind of controversial, or not everybody does it, but when I said, hey, if we do your try it price for 2 weeks, then we need to go down. Some agents will actually build into the listing contract. And this was in an older market, but they would say, okay, at 2 weeks, if it hasn't sold in writing, we're going to this price. If it hasn't sold 2 weeks after that, we're going to this price in writing. I've never done that. I'm just very conscious of having the conversation ahead of time as to where we're going to go. Most people get that, especially in the current market, because the results are so immediate in that sense. But back when we were in, 2010, lots of price reductions. And quite honestly, in the luxury market, it's a little bit different too, or country property. Like we said, we start a little bit high because maybe there's no apples to apples. I had one that was on a luxury that started at 1.7 million. And we had 3 price reductions. After 6 months, the listing expired. So brutal. I'd spent so much time on it. It was agent accompanied. I had to be at every showing. There was no lockbox. I love my clients dearly. They're the most amazing clients in the world. And they were just done because they were moving to Arizona for part-time. So literally 2 days after it expired, and we were at 1.475 for our price. A showing came in. They let me show it. And we put it in escrow. So we're in escrow at 1.4. We started at 1.695. So it's a huge gap, right? But they trusted me. They trusted that I was doing the right thing. And when you have that trust built in with your seller, they will do what you say to do. And that's super important. So just act confident and they'll write it out with you, because some are a little bit harder to sell. But we'd had 3 price reductions in that time. Let's see, on page 19, we talked about all of those things, right? What you can control, what you can't control, the window of opportunity, all of those things. CMA, you guys will have to decide on what you want to do for how your CMA looks. if you are new and you feel like, man, I need something flashy and fancy to take the pressure off of me, because you're always worried right in the beginning. They're going to ask you, how many homes have you sold? Actually, I had a listing appointment on Zoom about 2 weeks ago, and the people said, have you ever sold in the Pearl? I don't hardly sell anything in the Pearl. I'm like, oh, I've sold all over. I don't sell a lot down there. And they're like, have you ever sold anything in the Henry? I'm like, the what? I mean, I just was honest. I said, no, I haven't, but I sell luxury. But even in the beginning, right, I didn't start out selling luxury. So you build up, and now I can say I do. Trust me, it's not nearly as much fun as it looks like or sounds like. It's expensive and time consuming, but your clients make the difference. So be honest. But in the beginning, I remember they said, if someone asked you, how many homes have you sold? Surprisingly, not as many people do, you guys. So don't be scared of them asking you that. They really don't ask that often. You can respond with, I'm new to this. I have a whole team behind me, because I'm sure all of you have great resources within your office, either your coach, or what do you call those? The production coaches?
Productivity coaches.
Yes, thank you. Those guys, and any agent. I'm sure if I know it's weird right now because everybody's at home, but when we're all back in the office, I'm in my office every day, and someone knocks on the door and has a question. Someone's always there to help you, right? So there's ways around that. But if you feel like you need a little bit of, I'm not gonna say smoke and mirrors, but if you feel like you need a little bit of something fancy, that is a great opportunity then to have the seller guide or have the buyer guide to have in front of you, because it does help. Have you guys gone that far yet, or we're still in learning all of this for a listing presentation?
And I wanted to say that Etsy actually has quite a few pretty inexpensive templates, and it does a really good job of designing it for you, and then just putting in a template of where to start, your team, the process, just what to expect. So I've been working on that, and I think that's very helpful.
Excellent. And tell us again, where did you find that?
Etsy.com. And so it's just a digital download. Yeah. And so you can make it as cheap or as expensive as you want. I've seen templates for up to $200. But I started with something a little more basic just as a start, and then I can build off of it. And go from there.
Great. So, and did you, obviously the Keller Williams one is free. Mine, gosh, you guys, when I started, I'm trying to remember, back at John Scott, it started off as 8 pages, and then it was 12 pages. And I can remember I would print each page individually, and I'd stand there at the little binding machine, punching them all, and I'd line them all up, and I'd collate them myself at the office on the big long counter. And I'd put the little, binding comb on them. Now, and then once a year, like I said, I'd refine it. And now I have one that a graphic designer did design a couple of years back, and it's all professionally done. Happy to share that with you guys. If you email me, I'm happy to send you the soft copy of it so you can see what it looks like. It's nothing fancy. And honestly, usually I just throw it at the people. I'm like, hey, look at this after I leave, but here's a little bit about me. But when you're new, it is helpful to just go through it page by page and give you a little bit of a talking point on each one. Let's see, let me go back to yours. We're not going to actually work on a price here. On your page 20, where it says your seller's motivation and goals, that is actually a really important thing to ask them. When you start talking with them, why are you selling? When do you need to be sold by? If a buyer says, I just want to try the market, this might, sure, you can cut your teeth on it. You're going to potentially lose a little bit of money on it doing at least professional photos. I wouldn't get away with much less than that, but maybe it's for good practice. And then you can say, even if it didn't sell, I got a listing. So in the beginning, maybe you're not quite as picky. At this point in my career, I feel like if someone's like, oh, I'm just tire kicking, I'm like, okay, come back when you're serious or for real, because that's not what I want to spend my time doing. But when they say, oh no, I'm like my client, he's like, I'm retiring on Friday, I'm out. They have to sell. They're ready to sell. Divorces are kind of tricky. Always go into it knowing if your clients are getting divorced, because sometimes those can be a little tricky. I just lost one because it was at 1.4 million and the wife refused to sell. So that was fun. I lost $2,000 on that one. It's not all fun and games. Let's see, on your page 21. Oh, you know, the other thing that I find really helpful to do when I am at a listing, I can't tell you how many times the person says, well, the house across the street sold for X. Well, it didn't pop up in my comps, right? People, and I'm guilty of this too, you think it was like a month ago or 3 months ago, but it's actually like 2 years ago or a year ago. It's really helpful sometimes if I just have a street, in RMLS, you can do a street address search. I will put in what sold on that street in the last 2 years, so that you have that printed out, just that page. You don't have to print all the RMLS ones, just that page. You'd be like, oh yeah, your neighbor's house at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Northwest, whatever, sold for X 2 years ago. Because it's surprising how many times people say that to you. And it, you know, it's hard, you don't want to get caught off guard. If you have your computer with you or your iPad or whatever it is you use, you could always stop and say, oh, well, let's look it up, right? People love to see that kind of stuff too, if you've got the time. Oh, you guys always when you're running comps, always check the history of a listing. Even if you can do all this before you get the message or the email of, hey, I want you to come talk to me. Do as much as you can beforehand. A, it makes you look smart. B, if you pull the history on one and you see that they tried to sell a year ago and it sat on the market for 6 months, that's a heads up that either an agent told them a price that was not possible, or they're stubborn and they think it's worth something, and that poor agent wasted 6 months trying to get them to get their price down. Or you can say, oh, look, they bought it a year ago and now they're turning around and selling it. So checking that history is always really helpful as well. If you didn't do it yet, it's literally just a little yellow H in RMLS. Let's see the summary page. Here's something that I do that not every agent does. You guys will have to decide if you want to do it or not. I run an estimated net proceeds page for each, an estimated net proceeds. If I say, look, I think your house is worth 425 to 450, I'll run it at 425, I'll run it at 450. So you need to ask them, what do they owe? And then you need to look up their property taxes. Because the reason I do that is because let's just use 450. Well, here's how much I charge. Here's how much closing costs you're going to be through the title company. Here's the prorations of property taxes, those kinds of things. This is an estimate of what you will walk away with at the end of the day. Let's hope it's more. Any more than this is going to be the icing on the cake when we get that bidding war. But I don't want to promise you something that I can't guarantee, right? So I think this is where we're going to end up. In a down market, you actually print up lower ones. You're like, oh, this might happen. What happens if we only sell for this much? This is our worst case scenario. Would you still sell for this amount, right? So the controversy on that is that some people won't do it, is they don't feel comfortable assigning an actual sales price, or they're like, oh, what if it's all that different? Knock on wood, I've never had any issues with that. One tip on that is someone told me once, and I've always done it this way ever since, is what I charge as the listing agent, I break it down into what does the listing agent get and then what does the buyer's agent get. So it doesn't look like a massive number that they think is going to you, right? So that at least breaks it up, because I always say, you guys, I pay myself and my team for all the things I do. And then I also have to pay the buyer's agent. And here's what the buyer's agent is going to get. And I split mine 50-50. So they can see that, where that goes. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? I just use, there's a financial functions page in RMLS. I just use that one. And so if you have a acreage property, you could put in, hey, here's how much septic pumping is. If you have a property in Milwaukee, Hillsborough, or Portland that requires a home energy score, you can put in the cost of that. Washington County has a transfer tax. We're the only county that has that. So I put that one in there. And that way you can get a feel for where they're at too. Questions on that? So the question you should be asking is, well, how does she know the price before she saw the house? Because usually, I'm going to say 75% of the time, I can go in having a pretty good feel for what the house is going to sell for, because I asked so many questions ahead of time, and or it's sold recently enough that I can, and there's been enough comps that I can do it. 25% of the time, it's a unique home or a unicorn, or literally has never been an RMLS before. then I don't go in with that. I say, gosh, you guys, I'm gonna need a day or two to figure this out. I will get back to you on price, and then I will email them the estimated net proceeds. Questions on that? Okay. I think I saw something in the chat, but I have to figure out how to get there. Okay. Okay. Does the history come up? Oh, does anybody know how to answer that question? Does history come up in Paragon with WVMLS? I don't know that. I would say call their help desk. I'll bet you anything there is a way to find it. The history button is super important, especially with you guys, like all these Zillow and Open Door properties right now. You can go in either to the, I go in through the tax records. Zillow's paying more and then selling it for less. So, and often they're selling for even less than the list price. So always check the tax records to see what it last sold for. Sometimes you find some funky stuff in there too. Let's see, I'm looking through your scripts. Okay, putting it all together. Gosh, you guys, I feel like I went through everything too quickly. What do you guys, if I let you go right now, I feel bad, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind getting your day back. What questions do you have for me that you feel like I haven't addressed? Come on, hit me. It doesn't have to be about pricing, anything.
Kristen, so in order for us to get the copy of your presentation, we need to email you, or you can.
Yeah, just I'm Kristen at KristenRader.com.
Kristen,
so I put it in the chat, or you can just write it down. Cool. But yeah, you guys, I would say the most important thing is consistency. Literally right off the bat, I started with my snail mail once a month. That's all I do. And open houses, just be you. Both the buyer's agents I've only had 2. They're awful. They're terrible at open houses. They've tried and it just wasn't their gig. So if an open house isn't your thing because you're an introvert or you don't like making small talk with random people, don't feel like you're totally missing out. There are other ways to find clients. You're better off going to your church or your gym or your kid's school. Any social setting that you can be in, frankly, those people are you're gonna have a better chance of snagging them as clients, or they're gonna know someone that needs a realtor than sitting at the open house. Open houses are great, don't get me wrong, but if it just doesn't feel right, find another way. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna give you one more minute and then I'm gonna get you onto your day if that's cool. All right, I'm out then. If you guys have any questions or you work on something, you say, oh man, what should I do? Please don't hesitate. Kristen at KristenRader.com.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Bye.